con la grabadora. Está saliendo el trío ahorita en Rock Radio and More. Abrazando a toda la banda rock and rollera de parte de El Tri de México.
Cute and fire and leave your blood on the stage. Blood on the stage. There's nothing left to do but let the band kick in. Oh, yeah, you're no angel, but you got me deep down in my soul.
Eso es, estoy en una gran entrevista ahorita en este horario especial aquí en Rock Radio and More, en las plataformas de Rock Radio and More, con nuestros amigos de la banda The Cat Empire, que por cierto van a estar en concierto este junio 2 de junio, van a estar aquí por Atlanta, Georgia. ¿Cómo estás, Félix?
Hey, how you doing?
You're fine. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I think just let's voy a hacer esta entrevista en inglés, pero lo que yo pueda traducir. Do you speak Spanish, by the way?
Not well enough to do an interview in.
No problem. Well, I am so sorry. I just want to
make Spanish better than I speak Spanish, man.
Yes, I cannot believe how. I mean, your style of music and the latest albums are very Latin. So let's talk about it. I was going to just finish introducing in Spanish what I have. Esta banda se llama The Cat Empire. Voy a hacer mi entrevista en inglés y creo que vale la pena que la busquen en plataformas así. El Imperio del Gato, The Cat Empire, es una banda que tiene una peculiaridad. Tiene un estilo de música muy variado, me saca de onda, una calidad musical increíble y la versatilidad de estilos. Te puedes, o sea, de repente suena sin querer molestar aquí a Félix y a los miembros, pero suena de repente así como Santana y luego Talking Heads y David Byrne, The Gypsy Kings, hip hop, jazz. Oh my God. But anyway, welcome, Félix. ¿Cómo estás?
It's great to see you, man. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Anyway, just would you tell me a little bit of the band? I mean, the story of the band, albums, and where are you guys from? I mean, if you all are from Australia or different parts, just if you give me just a little bit.
I mean, the band, as you mentioned, is very eclectic, you know, like it's, most of us were raised in Australia, but not everyone. Lazaro Numa was born and raised in Havana in Cuba. A percussionist, Neda Romani.
No, ¿qué pasó? Bueno, voy a ver si vuelve, ojalá que vuelvan. Ellos están en Australia. Ahorita Félix está en Australia. Espero que pueda volver a entrar ahorita en este momento. Y les digo, miren, voy a ponerles un poquito de cómo se escribe el nombre. The Cat Empire es pero súper bandonón. De hecho, me llamó mucho la atención los primeros álbumes de ellos. De repente suenan bastante pop o como new wave. Y bueno, ¿cómo están todos por ahí? Sigo en español. Él está aquí, lo veo ahí, pero algo pasó con su señal. Esperemos que lo tenga de regreso. Voy a si me permiten un poquito, una vez más, miren, para que vayan más o menos reconociendo a la banda. The Cat Empire los tengo desde Australia. Ahorita en Australia son las 12 del día. Espero a ver si ya viene pronto. ¿Cómo están todos por ahí? A los amigos que nos estén viendo en redes sociales, en Rock Radio and More. Ahorita estoy también en mis personales. Estoy en mi red personal, en mis 2 perfiles personales y también estoy en Rock Radio and More. Tengo a Félix Rivi de la banda de Cat Empire, pero por lo pronto, bueno, hace un ratito, tuve antes de entrar aquí a la entrevista, mientras espero qué pasó aquí con el teléfono o con la computadora de Félix, de la banda de Cat Empire. Les digo que hace rato estaba platicando con un buen amigo de la escena regiomontana de rock, el bajista de Epitaph, y estábamos hablando de pasar por ahí, por San Antonio. Va a estar, fíjense, está Judas Priest, ya están saliendo de gira, y también va a estar Michael Schenker el 10 de octubre. Michael Schenker va a estar tocando UFO. No sé si va a estar con miembros de la banda de UFO, pero va a estar el 10 de octubre tocando definitivamente. Michael Schenker va a estar tocando música de UFO. No sé si el cantante o si quién sabe, pero bueno, total. El detalle es que está con madre. A ver si ahí tengo comentarios. ¿Qué onda? Saludos, mi estimado Mike. Hey, welcome back.
Sorry about that. I don't know. A long way from here from America to Australia, I guess. We must be
Yes,
fine.
I think so. We're so happy. I think we need to give thanks to God that we can communicate, musicians. We can have some talk and all that. But if you can give me again the brief of
Yeah.
what is the band, I mean the Cat Empire, and if you
Yeah, the Cat Empire is an interesting band to describe because it's so eclectic and it has musicians from everywhere. You know, a lot of the music in the early days came from the Melbourne music scene, which was fantastic, and which had a lot of diversity, you know, in it. And so we were around great older musicians as teenagers, and kind of got schooled in a lot of different ideas. And a lot of us could improvise and play jazz, and so adapt to different styles. But from within the band, we have Australians. We have Lazaro Numa, who plays trumpet and was raised in Havana in Cuba. We have you know, just Grace Barbe on bass, who was born in the Seychelles and lives here as well. Mauritian, Portuguese,
nice.
You know, Irish, Scottish, different backgrounds in the band that all sort of come together and have very different musical interests. And somehow the Cat Empire sound is formed, I guess.
Yes, I believe right now you guys have total. You're talking about 11 records, right? All total, 11 records.
Yeah. We've been busy.
Very busy, and you know what? I'm very impressed with the music. I'm very impressed because the whole array of styles, right, that you guys cover. In the beginning, I mean, I was, you know, I really enjoy the Cinema album.
Yeah.
And then I really enjoy the song. What is it? Let me see. There's a song, the Lost Song.
Yeah.
It's one style, and then the Bird and the Paradise, which is your new album.
Yeah.
It's completely another. It's like what the heck these guys are doing. I mean, you guys play all kind of music, and sounds so amazing. I mean, do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a big musical adventure for us, and I mean,
Yes.
To put it into context, it's the musicians in the band are very good, you know, like really established, great jazz players and people who have genuine interest, you know. And like I mentioned before, you know, people have also specialties that they can bring in and help teach the others and you know, spark more curiosity. So like Lazaro's brought a lot of genuine great Cuban influence into the band, and not just Latin, but Cuban son and just really interesting, traditional, beautiful sounds. And he brings that, whereas, you know, Grace on bass, you know, and she sings as well, sings in French Seychelles Creole. And it's and she brings like this whole Sega thing, which is very unique to her. So on this album, we went really quite deep into a flamenco space, and we have a few musicians here who have toured with, you know, Paco de Lucia and have done really proper, you know, a lifelong time in flamenco. And so we leaned into that and really, you know, started looking at tangos and bulerías and all of these wonderful styles, and writing in a way that wasn't trying to emulate it completely, but to take influences from there and combine it with our sound, which is a combination of everything. So for me, music is a big adventure, and we get to travel with it, and we get to explore different things. And the more experience I have in it, the more I realize how much I don't know and how much I want to keep on learning, you know?
So in well, congratulations, Felix. I really appreciate the life of musicians, and especially the ones that are always without fear. I mean, I love people that do the cult thing, that they always play the same style for their crowd. I
Yeah.
respect that. I love that, and
Hmm.
and it's pretty cool. But we also need to give a innovation to those guys that they're always experimenting and changing, and like a
Yeah.
David Byrne, people. There's a lot of artists that I
Yeah.
really
No, David
respect.
Burns is a huge, huge influence of mine, you know? Like, he's someone I'm really inspired by.
Ah!
Yeah.
I knew it. I said it here. I said it here before you said it. Look, it's
Yeah,
right
but yeah, I
there.
mean, his life. I mean, also the way he sings, and you know, just his life is a real inspiration to me because he's someone who was never afraid to explore completely different ideas. You know, same with someone like Joe Strummer. You know, who played with the Clash for so long, and that was one sound. And then with the Mescaleros went and did really really interesting stuff and just explored all of these things.
You
And so
mentioned, did you say the Clash?
yeah, Joe Strummer is one of my favorite singers as well, and the Clash is a good example because they sing. The early Clash is like just punk rock, like it's just punky. But then when you look at Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros, he goes into really different spaces as well. So yeah, the musicians like that have always been very high on my esteem.
Which is very good because you grow. You end up
Yeah,
growing and growing as a musician. You're given the chance to bring this Latino and Cuban.
yeah,
Cuban Cubans have a very, I respect it, the salsa from Puerto Rico. I
yeah,
respect the salsa from Colombia, from
yeah,
whoever. But the one from Cuba, it
yeah,
has there's a band called the Bamban, Bamban,
yeah,
Dan
yeah,
Dan
yeah.
Dan Dan. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have
that's
the
my love.
album. I have the
Yeah,
cassette, and
yeah,
the,
amazing.
it's so amazing. So it sounds like a very, the sound is
Yeah, the,
pretty.
the the Cuban sound I think is very special for me because it goes back to something very all of like we made an album in Havana at Akram Studios with back in 2005 I think, and that was amazing being there for me, as a very young musician because everyone played, you'd look at, you'd be outside the studio and there'd be like an old hotel full of different families and there'd be like congas in that room, there'd be trumpet players practicing there'd be a piano player practicing, and they would practice really sophisticated stuff, a lot of classical training as well in Cuba, and they would but then they bring it into say traditional Cuban son or something like that, and it is they allow themselves a simplicity as well within it, and that's that combination of like extreme musical natural capacity, hard work, and then the joy of simplicity within it, which makes that Cuban salsa or Cuban son or the different styles for me very joyful, and it has something very gorgeous about it. So we lean very heavily into that, and it's for some reason as Australian musicians, teenagers listening to rock music when we were young. I heard the Afro-Cuban All-Stars, and then I heard the Buena Vista when that released, and then Iraquere, Los Parvan, and it was like my life changed. I just got into that music, and me and Ollie did that. And we made an album over in Havana, and now we play with Lazaro, who grew up over the road from Ibrahim Ferrer. So we have a lot of, I don't know, an interesting Australian Cuban story going on.
So you got a good point because you said your life changed, and I believe, because I play music too, right? And I've been in situations, I'm more like a, rock kind of style, whatever.
Yeah,
But sometimes when you see people dancing, enjoying themselves like in their own thing, because the music you're playing is make them dance,
yeah,
it feels so good.
feels
And
so good.
it's a good thing. I mean, I'm more used to the thing they're watching you and all that. I grew up with heavy metal, so I was playing,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they're like, whatever,
Yeah.
and that's very good. But when you see them dancing and enjoying so much, it is another kind of level of satisfaction. It is
Totally.
completely different. And who, Felix, do what kind of I mean, who composed the music? Who's the writer and producer? Or
Well, the producer and the writer is different. I write a lot of the songs, but more recently, a lot of the songs are also co-written. But I guess my first passion was songwriting. I've been writing songs since I was, 11 years old, pretty much, and that's always been my first staple. And I feel like I'm surrounded by such good musicians, like really high quality musicians, that if I don't have a really good song for them, or what I think is a good song at the time, to bring into the room, then I don't feel comfortable. So
yes,
songwriting has always been my first passion. But now, we really, like, a lot of those songs are written together. Like on Bird in Paradise, there's some songs which have a Cuban Spanish verse, mongrel English Australian verse, and a Seychelles Creole verse as well. So go figure, how that fits into a band. But it's like we have a lot of shared writing as well on this album.
okay, and when I mean, you play, right? You play like a trumpet or
No, I play percussion, and I sing, and I play the Cuban tres.
the Cuban what?
Tres.
A tres. You play the
Yeah,
tres.
yeah.
So, do you compose the music with an instrument, or you just
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I play piano as well, but
Okay.
not in the band.
not in the band, but you get
Ollie plays keys in the band. He's a much better piano player than I am. But I used to write a lot on piano, and then in the last few years, for the last few albums, I've been writing on Cuban tres, and it's very interesting because the way that you write and harmonize on a piano is quite different to the way you write on a guitar instrument, as you know.
Mhm.
For instance, on a guitar, you can play major chords and they sound really good, and on a piano, they might sound kind of cheesy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's just different.
That's
There's
true.
just different qualities that come out of different instruments. And after, having been a songwriter for a long time, you need to find new inspirations to learn a new instrument, because that can trip you into melodies. And yeah, and a lot of the way that we write as well, I would say, with this band, is often we'll finish a show, like be real sweaty, 2-hour big long show, and we'll go out on the street, and play to people after the show outside the bus. And that's like with a tres, a voice, a trumpet, maybe. And if the song isn't good enough to work in that context, then it might not be such a good song. Things like that, when it's a group of people celebrating together on the street, if you can write a melody that they can all sing, then it's a good melody. Do you understand?
Yes, of course,
Yeah.
it connects right away. I mean, they say the melody comes from God, and then basically when you are with people, it's like being in church.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, you need these things. And I mean, one of the things I love about traditional song, Cuban music, is that the melodies are so simple. A lot of those songs are written around 3 chords maximum. A lot of them are written around 2, and yet they find so much variety and so much beauty, in that, and they're intensely singable. I love songs that anyone can sing. You don't have to be a great singer to sing that melody, because you can sing it with passion on the street around other people. And when people go to church, for example, and sing those songs, the best ones, are so simple and beautiful and moving that a group of people, even non-singers, will have an uplifting spiritual experience. So I think God is in music, whether you're religious or not.
Oh yes, that definitely. Actually, there's a mathematician. The mathematician. How do you say it?
Mathematician.
Mathematician. The guy from Japan or whatever, he says that the God is proven, mathematically proven, and
Yeah.
the mind of God is music. So
Yeah.
no wonder it is why music is everything. I mean, yes. But anyway,
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Have you been in the United States playing? Have you
Yeah,
played
many
before?
many times. Although on this tour coming up, we're playing some places that we've never played before, so it's going to be an interesting and great road trip, I think.
So you're coming to Atlanta on June 2nd, but this
And
is
that'll
the
be
first
the first time in Atlanta. Yeah.
okay. So you've been in Miami, I'm pretty sure.
We've been close to Miami. Yeah, and I think we've played Miami before on the last trip. Yeah.
What is it? Do you remember any kind of cities, and when do you guys play here in the United States?
No, you know what? I'm terrible at this stuff. I only find out where we're playing when we arrive there on the bus.
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
There
you
are
guys.
other people. There are other people who, in the band, like our musical director Ross, who knows every date and could rattle it off. But for me, tell people to go to thecatempire.com. They can check out the tour and see all of our US dates there. It's probably the
And
best.
you guys so you recorded in 2005, you said. You 2005 or
I think so. The Two Shoes album was recorded, maybe 2004, 2005 in Havana, in Cuba. Yeah.
okay, that was yes, that
And we recorded the album so many nights in America, a lot of it in America with a producer called John Porter, which was really fantastic. That was in LA.
in Australia, you guys are from Melbourne, right? You said
Yeah, most of us. Yeah. Now there's a few people living in Adelaide and WA, so we're spread out and we come together for rehearsals. But the band's sounds, I think, came from the Melbourne music scene. Melbourne is probably the most famous music city in Australia. And when we were coming up, in the early 2000s, we were really part of a great music scene in Melbourne. And you'd walk down one strip of the road and there'd be like an amazing flamenco bar, with incredible musicians. Across the street from that would be like an incredible sort of salsa, like hang with a lot of the Chilean, Colombian, Cuban community in Australia would be playing there. Then you go down a few doors, there'd be a great jazz club, like a proper real deal jazz club. Then there'd be like reggae playing out of somewhere else and hip hop out of another place. That's it was kind of the Melbourne scene, and we knew all of those musicians. And as young guys, we used to just knock on the door and come and play with them. So I feel like Melbourne as a city is very heart and soul for the Cat Empire.
it's kind of like it sounds like Nashville here, Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's sort of the equivalent of, the States is full of those cities. I mean, you got New Orleans, Nashville, you got,
Yeah, no, but
New York.
Nashville
is. It's crazy. It's like if there's so many cities, Seattle with the grunge, it's just like
yeah,
amazing.
it's true.
But it's but Melbourne, much smaller population. I mean, Australia, much smaller population. But Melbourne, the quality of musicians that we grew up with was a very special generation, and we grew up playing live every night.
Live, and just jam
all the time.
So you guys, how far are you from Sydney?
About 9 hours drive, 9 or 10 hours drive, or an hour on a plane. Yeah, about 1,000 kilometers.
Hey, I every time I tell people this, nobody believe me until I show it to them. But there's always there's a song called Hey Yeah, right?
Yeah, I know
of this
song,
the Outcast they're from here, from Atlanta.
I love that.
And then I heard that Australia was trying to make that song Estrella or Estrella or something.
Yeah.
They're trying to make the song like their national anthem. Is that true?
Anthem, yeah. Well, because like the Australians speak with a slang kind of English, it's hard to understand it sometimes. And instead of saying Australia like an American would say it, a lot of people to say Australia, just like Stray, sort of thing. Yeah, so it would work quite well with that song. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I love the video they did, Estrella, but it's the song, and they use the same song, Outcast, but they changed the lyrics and the beautiful lyrics, and so I'm very happy. So you guys are coming to Atlanta with the whole band. These guys that I showed, the whole band. And where else you guys gonna play? Atlanta, Georgia. Do you remember another one?
Yeah, we're playing New Orleans for the first time, which should be pretty fun. We're playing Atlanta, Georgia. We're playing New York, Boston, San Fran. The usual spots you'd imagine. But then we're doing quite a bit down, mid lower America, which should be really, really fun.
You know what? I always everybody. I mean, we're in Atlanta, right? But we broadcast so much for Latin America too, and I'm Mexican. And in Mexico, they always ask me, hey, do you think there's a band one day like a Metallica or Beatles in Mexico that might come? I said, well, the talent is there. The only
Yeah,
problem probably is that the environment, right? That we
yeah,
need the
yeah, yeah.
environment, the whole thing. Would you say something about that? What is that needs to be taken? Because in your case, you're telling me you grew up in a place where there's bands and bands and playing and
Yeah,
playing,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that helped you a lot, right? I
It
mean,
helped us a lot in the early days, totally. Look, I don't know. I don't know what the secret is. I mean, if you take like the Beatles are huge then, but they grew up, in a little English city, with not much music. I think a lot of those early bands probably had like two or three vinyls, that they emulated their sound off. I heard Robert Plant talking once about all he used to do was like listen to Muddy Waters and try and sound like that on guitar. Like just emulate one sound. And so I think, Nirvana came from a tiny town outside of Seattle somewhere, like in the country. Then not much would have been happening there. So I don't think it needs to be like you have to come from the biggest city and be part of that whole thing. I think that sometimes there's just an alignment of God that lets the audience hear you. It lets the audience hear you, and you have the right sound at the right time that captures something unexplainable in a lot of people. And it's a combination of lots of things that I can't find an exact description for.
Yeah, quiero mandar un saludo. Let me say something in Spanish. I want to say hi to my friend here in Monterrey, but right now he's in United States, and I think I don't know what part of Texas he is right now, but and también aquí a Mike Vega, que está aquí en Atlanta, Georgia. Un saludo. Is there anything that you want to add to the conversation, to say something? Invite our friends here from Rock Radio and more. If you want to say Austin, Texas. Yes, sir. Okay. You want to? There's something that I probably missing that you would love to communicate to our friends. Felix.
Me?
Yes,
Not
yes,
really,
yes.
man. It's nice to have a chat, and we're excited to get over there and play some shows. And a lot of these, like Atlanta will be the first time, so I think people will get a chance to see the band. Going back to our roots and playing a club over there, and it's going to be a very festive and great musical night. So I hope everyone can get out and across the states, check out the band.
Is there a band from here that you like from United States that is current?
There's so many bands that I like from over there. It's really hard to pick one. But I mean, the greatest gift to the world, it's funny because the States is a complicated place, I think. But the greatest gift to the world that the States has given is its musical history. From blues through to rock, through to R&B, through to all of those things. The tapestry of this music from the United States of America is, I think, its biggest gift to the world,
It's
and
true.
so instead of saying sort of one band, I think that's something that we come back to, and I think music is wonderful because it can defeat politics at that moment. It can defeat a lot of differences and barriers, and that's one thing that I have been very, very inspired by the music that's come culturally. In terms of its electricity and excitement out of the country we're about to tour in. So we always remember that.
Blues, you have jazz, you have rock and
There's
roll.
so much.
It's
There's
so
much,
much,
yeah.
and all the artists. Your favorite of all time? Do you have
My favorite,
So hard?
my favorite American artist of all time. Honestly, like, I don't know. Two people come to mind, and it's not my favorite. I mean, I grew up. There was a Springsteen cassette in our car when we were kids that I absolutely loved. And I remember listening to that, and that really got me excited about music when I was really young. Like
Which one was?
5 or 6 years old. I think it was the Born to Run cassette tape. And Dr. John, I mean, may he rest in peace. I got to hang out with him quite a bit when he came out here, and he's a New Orleans artist. I think has got a great story. I think he's wonderful. But there's just so many others.
So much. It's a
There's
very
too much,
difficult
yeah.
question when people says, "What's your favorite album of all
Yeah,
time?"
no,
It's like,
it's
"Fuck
too
you."
much.
It's
It depends when you ask me. It changes. Yeah.
Yes, it changes definitely, and at the end of the day, it's all in the mood, right? The what is like a
Yeah, yeah,
medicine.
yeah.
What do you need?
Absolutely.
Well, what is this for? Then I would just chill and well,
Exactly, exactly.
it depends
And
what
the
you want.
music I listen to is so different. You know, I'll be listening to like Russian classical music one second, and like Cuban song the next, and then like grunge. Like, and when we're on the bus touring through the states, often we'll just go through the whole back catalog of a band. You know, we'll listen to the whole Beatles back catalog, or all of Metallica's back catalog, or all of the Beach Boys, and just like to actually pay attention to that. So it's very, very different, in terms of the music we listen to, which is probably the same for everyone. But we're definitely not one of those bands who thinks like this is the only style we have and this is all we'll play and this is what we do. We're very curious musical souls in the Cat Empire, and there's always something new to discover.
We have an issue here, Latinos, that we love rock.
Yeah,
We're like a culture, right? And we get very tight, and our likings, and we get it very personal. And Facebook, we have a big followers. I mean follow like sometimes 5 million people reach,
yeah,
and a lot of people engage in Facebook, the rock radio and more,
yeah,
and of rock radio and more. And there's a topic that is very high, which is the music called reggaeton.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I know
and
reggaeton.
and, and everybody hates it. I mean, we get united against it. It's like remember those days when everybody was so mad against disco,
Yeah, yeah,
disco,
yeah,
disco socks and all that. and
yeah,
and at the end of the day, I want to. We've been talking about why is so it gets stronger and stronger. I mean, eh, I don't try to demonize that thing,
yeah,
but of course it has certain things that we don't like. But
yeah,
one thing we have seen is that music, they do a lot of featuring, like
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
singer plays with this singer, and they
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's why, and we believe it helps so much the genre. And if you were going to feature in an album, or you're gonna have someone in, which one you want to be with? I mean,
I don't know. We've often thought about the feature artists who are like. I mean, the artists you mentioned before, if they can still be, if they can be dead, I would love to do something with Joe Strummer or with David Byrne. I mean, he's alive. I mean, they're artists who I'd love to do something with. But I don't know. Like the feature thing is kind of tricky for us in a way because like within the band, like I said before, it's like there are songs where I'm singing in English, Lazaro's singing, in Cuban Spanish, and Grace is singing in Seychelles Creole, and we've got like an instrumental. Like the band already has so many
oh
voices
yes,
in it and
yes,
things,
no,
what I mean? So it's like I love artists and I'm constantly inspired by by different musicians, and there are many who have been meant a lot to me, like Manu Chao, for example, is a person I look up to very much in terms of his musical adventure. I love, that influenced me a lot when I was young, when I was, making my way in music, and it was one of the first sort of non-English albums that I heard when I was a teenager, like a young teenager, and started singing along in Spanish or in French kind of thing. It was fun, and then I got to meet him. We toured, did various festivals together and hang out. And he's someone who I'd love to do something with, but at the same time, for me, like I don't need to play with someone to love them because music for me is a lot about listening, and you
yes,
feel like you know them when you listen to them.
yes,
And I feel like I'm surrounded by such wonderful musicians. I love the people I perform and tour with, and I respect them a lot too. So I don't look at music as kind of goals for this. I have to do that now. I have to play with that person, or I want to feature because it's going to, you know, make
yeah,
us more
got it.
famous or something. It's like I'm just interested in what the next musical experience is going to be, and if that's a feature, that's great. And if it's not, then I'm very, very happy with the people I've got. Yeah,
Yes, well, definitely, you have to have a very good soul in order to do what you guys been doing, like creating different get into different styles. And I could see right away, it came to my mind, and I put it here on my notes. David Byrne, I
Yeah.
can feel it. I can feel your spirit
No,
link,
totally.
the link with you, and
Yeah, I mean that would be beautiful. That would be incredible. Like I think that what David Byrne did and what Talking Heads did, like, but in the day was like just very, very, very unique and creative. And I've taken a lot of, like I said, inspiration from him. And I think that the Cat Empire is a bit of an outlier. It always has. It doesn't really fit in with a lot of musical categories. And I think Talking Heads were kind of like that as well in a way. It's just like, where do they sit? What's their thing? But it's like, for me, that's a real sign of, I don't know, respect. It's like you've done something interesting, and you're not like any other band. And I think that when you can try and do something that feels unique and that isn't fitting into a mold, that's always a good thing for me.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. If you want to just say something about discipline and music, because it's huge for me. I mean, every time I have different shows, and this show, La Dosis, is about music and musicians, talking with musicians, inspiring other musicians. And I believe I always try to promote people, play music.
The discipline of music. I mean, for me, I've been a musician for a relatively long time now, and since I was a teenager, it's the only job I've ever had. And what I've discovered over this period is that, like, it gets better. If you can play music, I think there are fewer and fewer things in this world that have genuine purpose and that can genuinely bring joy both to yourself in the playing and to people around you. And of course, that takes waking up and saying it's a dedication to life. It's not something you do on the side or as a job. It's a life dedication to do something, and that's working on your craft. And I think it's also, there's a song on this album called "Blood on the Stage."
Yes, so good. I love it. I love that song.
I don't like giving advice to musicians much, but when I chat to kids these days, about the only thing I think is useful for them is to say, do your practice and work hard and try to write well. But the most important thing, if you want to be a live musician, is you have to leave some blood on the stage every night. You can't just go in there and be safe. You can't go in there. Yeah, you go out there and you leave a little piece of yourself there, and you demand from the audience they do the same, and then you get a really good live show. It's lifeblood, and I think you have to be prepared to go there if you want to be a touring live musician. I think you have to love that feeling of like giving more than you think you have,
So you believe that you become a healer when you're on stage? I mean, it feels so good.
It's kind of like you're the one inflicting the wound and you're the one who's healing it at the same time.
Yes, of course. Yes.
The audience is kind of doing the same thing for you, but it's just playing like you mean it. That's it. It's just play it like you mean it. And if you're doing it for a job, then that's not it. You play it because it's passionate and it takes you somewhere out of yourself. And if that's not something that excites you very much,
and you cannot trick the audience,
choose a different line of work.
Exactly. You cannot trick the audience. The audience feel it.
No.
And there's something that you can feel when the artist is in there, present here and now, and giving his best. He doesn't care. I really have a lot of appreciation for those professionals that take their job very seriously and prepare, and they take it. Look at Angus Young.
They take their job seriously, and they take their fun very seriously as well. Because I mean, that's the other thing is it's got to be fun. I mean,
of course.
If you enjoyed school and you liked study, then you're probably not meant to be a rock musician. You have to take your fun and your freedom dead serious, and you have to work at it in a way, but also just let it inhabit you, let it become a way of life. It's a spiritual thing. You go for it. You go into it and you don't question it.
In Australian language, and just to wrap it up, how do you call when another person is from the same, you both are from the same country? We say in Spanish, we say paisano, because paisano, like we're in the same from the same city or the same town. How do you guys call it? Ups, bueno, se fue. Es que le iba a decir que su paisano Angus Young anda todavía rockeando el cabrón. yo no puedo creer el guitarrista de AC/DC, ¿se acuerdan de, o sea, no sé, ¿se acuerdan cómo corría el cabrón? Yes, Felix, thanks for coming back. I was explaining, how do you call the guys from the same town, from same country, or how would you call, like we say paisano?
Oh yeah, well, the same thing. We'd say like there's not really a word for it. Like paisano, it's more like we're from the same neck of the woods. That's what we do.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
how do you say, what do you think about your paisano Angus Young? I mean, the guy is so, I mean, he's old and he still is rocking like crazy. He's on tour right now.
He's killer.
It's a
I love
killer,
him.
and his discipline and that family is crazy. I have so much admiration, and I wish you the very best. And your
Thank you.
between now and June, and see you in June.
We'll see
Hopefully,
you in June,
we
brother.
can take a picture. This is this was an interview with Felix. How do you pronounce your last name?
Felix Rebel.
Rabel. Okay,
Yeah.
Felix Rabel de la banda The Cat Empire. Muchas gracias a todas las personas que estuvieron con nosotros. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros y los espero en la siguiente, próximo miércoles en ¿Qué onda?
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, sir.